Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on yet another episode of the podcast. And today I have a phenomenal guest with me, all the way from Barbados today. And we're going to be having a conversation around how AI and biotechnology is redefining agriculture. And my guest today is Mr. Joshua Forte. He's a climate smart agricultural innovator and the founder of Red Diamond Compost Inc., a pioneering biotech company transforming agriculture and marine waste into high performance biostimulant that regenerates soil, enhances crop resilience, and support climate adaptation. Through its AI enabled Diamond Matrix Bioconversion (DMX) platform, Mr. Joshua converts diverse organic waste stream into scalable, transferable soil health solutions, creating global opportunity for licensing and localized manufacturing. With over a decade of experience developing regenerative technologies using seaweed, plant biomass, and proprietary biotech, Joshua's work has earned recognition from One Young World, regional government, and international innovation programs. His impact now extends across Africa, Southeast Asia, and Americas. Joshua's mission is to transform global waste challenges into profitable climate smart opportunities for farmers, investors, and community. Mr. Joshua, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic, fantastic. And so as we delve into the conversation today, my very first question to you is what sort of inspired you to start, inspired you for the creation of Diamond Metric bioconversion platform, and how does this sort of combine AI and biotechnology to solve real world agricultural challenges?
Well, the way I came about with the Diamond Matrix, it really started from the more manual process that I was using before to develop our products. So it's mainly
Okay.
looking at the production of our products where we take different types of organic materials. These could be waste materials, organic, invasive species, and create them into precision agricultural inputs. So kind of going through that process manually was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see how we can make it more efficient because a big part of it, especially when we're talking about organics, is being able to lower the cost of those inputs compared
Yeah.
to, our synthetic competition. So a big part of it was for me to be able to lower the cost of the inputs we're producing because then that makes it a lot more accessible to farmers. And
Yeah.
then the whole focus around those products that we create, at the core of all of them is ensuring that we are supporting soil life. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure that when these products are applied, to plants, to the soil, they have zero negative impact on soil life and is only improving, only helping it to thrive and build the fertility and nutrient cycling in the soil and ultimately the resilience of the crops. So with having those key things in mind, I thought about how we could go about improving the efficiency of our production process, making it a lot more faster, a lot more streamlined. But then the other key
Mm.
thing that came out of it was as we, do our field trials and we look at the details around our production process, we
Okay.
understood that the quality of the inputs that we're using is really
Mm-hmm.
important, but
Yeah.
also how we are managing the specific parameters around that production process as well. So we saw opportunity for us to, bring technology in to allow us to monitor the production process. But for me, with the technology we have available today, I wanted to take it a step further and really look at pairing our production process, having oversight on that, but knowing what the outcome in the soil is going to be beforehand. And to put it into perspective, when you're dealing with these organic materials, especially living materials, the composition of them is not always the same. You're not going to get the exact same composition, but we try to achieve a certain level of consistency through our production process. So this is where, for me, the DMX system is a tool that's going to allow us to do this. So we're actually putting probes and sensors in the soil so we get that before and after, before the products are applied, and then after the products are applied, and we are measuring the different changes that are occurring in the soil with the biology and making it one cohesive system.
Wow, wow, that's so great. So it means you guys also sort of take advantage of IoT in your processes as well.
Yes, definitely.
Fantastic, fantastic. So that's a lot of technological advancement as well, and a lot of precision in the work. Because once we start leveraging IoT, there will definitely be a high level of precision as regards the processes.
Mhm.
Nice. Fantastic. So my other question to you at this time is, can you sort of explain how artificial intelligence is used within the DMX system to optimize waste transformation and also create precision soil health solutions? And what would you say makes this different from the traditional composting or fertilizers?
Yeah. So what we actually doing is we're building out our machine learning, deep learning model that is being trained specifically on uh, soil health and understanding soil biology. So we, in a sense, have kind of at this stage rigged together a very unique set of sensors that we're using to measure what is actually happening in the soil, and then that data is actually being fed back to our production system. So we have actually multiple AI models that are communicating with each other, that are monitoring different aspects of the process. So we're literally going from that raw material that we're collecting, understanding all the aspects around that, the environment it was collected in, the location it was collected in, monitoring the parameters of the production process. And then when that product goes into the field, what are the changes that we're able to observe? And each of them are communicating with each other so that we can optimize for the ideal results. And ultimately we want farmers to be able to produce a lot more, to do it more efficiently, more effectively, to reduce their costs and maximize their yields and build long-term soil health. So that's essentially how that works. And I would say the main difference you get between this type of technology we're building out versus the traditional is that one, well, as far as I'm aware, this specific type of application has not been implemented yet when it comes to composting or other types of biological inputs. They're still
Yeah,
operating in a very traditional way.
true.
Even for some facilities, they do have production management and monitoring systems, but
True.
you know we are seeking to push things to the next level, because one of the key things we want to be able to accomplish in the long run is to have a high level of visibility and traceability of our climate impact for our
Mm,
production process, and then for farmers as well, to be able to have that visibility so they literally know and can understand what the impact of the practices they're doing is having on their soil. Because if you think
mm,
about it, once we're able to actually optimize our sensors and deploy them on a larger scale, farmers will
yeah.
then have that tool at hand. A big part of it right now is actually collecting real-time data,
Mm,
which is very critical in you understanding, either from your own practices or even from natural occurrences in the environment, how it could be positively or negatively impacting your soil.
Fantastic, fantastic. I was just about to ask you a couple of questions around data for decision making and even analytics and traceability, but I think
Mhm.
you sort of touched a bit on it. But I would just definitely like you to delve more into it. And so the question for that would be, how does data analytics and traceability shapes the future of regenerative agriculture, and what roles does sort of transparency play in farmers' adoptions? Because sometimes most farmers, they're a bit skeptical for anything that has to do with like technological advancement because it's something they're not used to. So how
Mhm.
have you been able to sort of move around that?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing is really highlighting how it benefits the farmers. And, for one, our goal ultimately, we're still in the very early stages of the build out, but our goal ultimately is that farmers can uh, confidently say and represent what the quality of their produce is, and
Yeah,
their whole process. We have a big problem in the regenerative organic agriculture space when it comes to greenwashing, and everybody wants to be regenerative and
yeah,
everybody wants to
yeah.
be green and sustainable, but how many of them actually can prove it and prove it in a way that can be tested by others. So even when we look at farmers who may be seeking to access carbon credits, right, for all the work and
True.
efforts that they're doing in their regenerative processes, this is how we see our DMS platform, as we build it out in the future going forward, would be able to bridge these gaps that exist. Another key part of it is, like you're mentioning, the apprehensiveness of many of the farmers. I
Yeah,
think when you really meet them where they're at is very important. The
yeah.
context of the farmer you're speaking to, whichever country they're from, whichever region they're from, is really important, and that allows you to understand where the gaps are and how you can bridge those gaps. But ultimately, showing them in a tangible way how this will benefit them, and
Mm.
to have them pilot it, test it, and see for themselves, is the way forward, the way we'll be able to get that done. And you only need a small number of them to start with, and then
True.
the proof is in the pudding, as they say, before the others are on board.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, my next question would definitely be around, sort of like the challenges, because every venture has its own sort of, challenges that comes with it, whether it's just starting out or even the scaling of it. So my question is, what are some of like the challenges you faced in scaling your AI powered biotech solutions across your region, particularly in like developing countries with varied agricultural systems and infrastructures?
Yeah, one of the main things, at times, even here in Barbados, most recently we've been having some challenges. Connectivity,
Mm,
having access to the internet services that we need to make sure that our systems aren't failing, or
mhm.
aren't even delayed, is one of the biggest challenges. And then, where you're working with farmers that are in very remote and rural areas, that
Mm,
can be an issue as well. So we're actually working to see how we can build out our system in a way that it can work online and offline as well.
yeah,
And I think that would make a huge difference going forward. And then, I mean, the cost is always a major factor. The cost of it, seeing how we can do it as efficiently as possible. Being from a small island developing state, being from Barbados as an island nation, figuring out how to accomplish a lot with a little bit is kind of part of the stripes that you get
mm,
coming up. So I think we're doing a pretty good job in that area, but
okay,
still, is always more that you can do. I think one of the biggest things that many of us who are building out these AI technologies for agriculture and sustainability, I think one of the things we're not always thinking of or have at the top of our minds is the impact that these technologies can have on the environment as a whole, collectively. The what you see about AI data centers
Yeah.
and the negative impact it can have on the environment is another key thing that for me
Mhm.
I'm very very conscious of. And with my team, I am continually pressing to see how we can scale up what we're doing in a way that doesn't have that negative impact. I think personally that
Mhm.
these challenges aren't impossible to overcome, but again, we just have to put our minds toward it. And as the
Mhm.
technologies advance, the solutions will come. But I would say the final thing for sure that sticks out to me the most would be the context. Like I was
Mm.
mentioning before, dealing with farmers in different regions, different cultures, speaking different languages, understanding the cultural context is one of the biggest things. It's so important. And I think having that reinforcement of it wherever we go, we always seek to understand first. So it's not a
Yeah.
case where we're just coming to bring our solutions and bring our technology and push it on anyone. It's like, no, we need to understand the context of your experience so that we can best serve you and we can best
Yeah.
support you. And yeah, I think that that approach has been working really well.
Hmm. Fantastic. I like how you talked about the fact that it's definitely important to understand context because even as much as you're creating a solution, you're creating it for people, and so you have to
Mhm.
be able to sort of communicate with them effectively so that you're able to effectively solve their problems as well. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that as well. And so when you spoke about it in terms of like the financial cost, is it like the cost to build out the solution or the cost of acquisition of the solution
Sorry, say
or
that again.
both? So when you talked about one of the challenges being like cost, right? And the
Mhm.
cost. So the question is it like the cost to build out the solution or the cost on the part of the users of the solution to acquire the solution? Or it's like
Oh,
both ways.
yeah, mainly the cost of us developing the solution, more so. So
Okay.
to kind of paint the picture too as to how our model works as we be building it out. Again, for us, it's centered at this stage around our production of our clean and green agrochemical solutions. So what we want to
Mm-hmm.
do is be able to set up satellite facilities in different regions and different
Mm-hmm.
locations using the local organic materials to produce
Yeah.
these types of precision products. So even with that, where we're looking at our model similar to like a franchise model, we're trying to see how
Oh,
can we again increase the accessibility, increase the amount of users. We can take a
mm,
model where traditionally you would charge an absorbent upfront fee, for them
yeah.
to license it and then implement it, or we could reduce that fee tremendously, get
Mm,
the technology deployed, actually generating value as quickly as possible in a particular
yeah.
region, and then we would work off of what the value that it actually generates and benefit from that end. So we,
Yeah.
we again been working on different models to make it as accessible as possible, but for us right now is mainly uh, the cost on our end for building it out.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you so much for providing that clarity. So my next question to you at this time is, how do you sort of ensure that farmers, especially smallholder farmers, benefit from the advanced technology like DMX? And what are some of like the practical ways technology empowers them rather than exclude them?
So I think that um, again, when it comes to the data aspect, the information that we're actually collecting,
Yeah.
understanding that how we use that data is important. And really and truly, this data is the farmers' data that we're collecting, and allowing them to understand how they can leverage that data,
Yeah.
how they can, again, not only make better decisions for their
Yeah.
own operation, but be able to access some of these other benefits that governments and policymakers would be providing. And I think it actually makes and helps create that stronger argument, when we're dealing with governments and
Yeah.
policymakers to say, hey, this is literally what the situation is. This isn't a hypothetical. We have the raw data to support it. This is what we're doing. This is the measured impact. And this is what you need to support. This is what needs to change. And I think
Mm.
even here in Barbados, when we talk about biodiversity, there's a lot of talk about it, but no one can give you concrete figures on it. When we're talking about soil fertility and soil health, it has all of these kind of abstract definitions that different people interpret. But what our goal is, and our mission is part of our mission is to accomplish, is bringing that into context that we can all understand, that both the farmer
Mm.
can understand and the economist or policymaker can understand, and being able to put a specific type of value system to it. I think that would help transform the lives
Yeah.
of small farmers a lot. One of the things that we do in conjunction to our production of these products is we run a training program as well. So we have
Mm.
educational courses and workshops for farmers, and we're a big part of the goal is teaching regenerative organic practices. The
Yeah.
other side of it is the business side. We want to
Mm.
make sure that farmers are building strong farm businesses, bankable farm businesses, and that they
Yeah.
start to see it that way. Because one of my personal wider goals is um, being able to make farming and agriculture a lot more appealing in mainstream spaces,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and investment circles, especially specifically when we're talking about smallholder farmers. They make
Yeah.
up such a large percentage of global food production, and honestly, if we don't have them, the idea of achieving food security would not be possible without them. So I think that
True.
everything that we do should be working towards supporting them as much as possible.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I like how, as much as you're keen about having them adopt your product, you're also keen about helping them see agriculture as a business, so that they can keep being in the business, and you have more business with them as well. So it means that your organization sort of thinks long term, like think long term, within the
Yeah.
sector as well. So that's really, really great. And I also like how you touched on, key stakeholders like policymakers and the government. And so my next question is also towards that direction. From your own experience, what would you say are some of like the opportunities that exist for investors, policymakers in supporting AI-driven smart, climate smart agricultural enterprises? And how can capital sort of accelerate both impact and profitability?
Well, I mean, when we look at the AI in agriculture right now, that is valued at almost $3 billion globally, and it's something that's growing. It's something that is gonna continue to grow and continue to grow at a very rapid rate. So when we're talking about the future of agriculture and all of the different types of optimization that we're seeing at many different levels,
Yeah.
it is a very good, it creates itself, presents itself as a very strong long-term investment vehicle. So,
Mm.
if there's an investor out there that's listening that has some interest, or we've piqued their interest in investing in agriculture, I think that the AI aspect of it is one that, like all the other or most of the other AI fields, is one that is going to be accelerating very, very quickly. Um,
True.
but again, in terms of how we use it, making sure that it's being used as responsible as possible, and having all the different stakeholders at the table, policymakers, I think having them a part of the conversation early on is important, because you can get to a point where the conversation becomes very high level,
True.
and very abstract, and the kind of the
Yeah.
teeth of what you're trying to accomplish can be lost. So I
Yeah.
think for anyone even pursuing uh, this type of work, and in this sector, having conversations with everyone from the farmer to the policymaker is important to understand where everyone is at and the gaps
Mhm.
that need to be bridged, because I think we are at a point where this is a very huge and monumental opportunity. And I
Yes.
think uh, similar to the advent of the internet, this AI
Yeah.
revolution is going to be another opportunity for those who may be on the lower end of the ladder to be able to climb much higher. Again, being
Yeah.
able to enhance and optimize the resources that they have at hand. So yeah,
Mhm.
I see it is a very big opportunity for investors, and I would encourage governments to look at it carefully and consider it. Any startups, entrepreneurs that are in your country, in your region, that are working on this, go speak to them, have conversations with them, find out how you can help, how you can support, because again, you're able to take small inputs and generate very large outcomes with it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing the opportunities that are available within the space for economic value creation. So thank you so much. Because personally, I believe that agriculture is a viable means for economic empowerment. However, most
Mhm.
people tend to think of it like, oh, if I invest in, if I put my money in certain ventures, I'm able to extrapolate to say, okay, I should be able to have X hour return. However,
Mhm.
agriculture might not be able to, articulate what I should expect. And even in terms of like duration, one of my guests one time told me, he said, agriculture is that kind of investment that is usually impact based first. And the first thing you have to invest first is a lot of patience capital.
Mhm.
It's like you have to just put in a lot of patience capital. You have to be willing
Yeah.
to wait wait long term, just like you
Mhm.
highlighted, wait long term. So it's not something, oh, I put my money in today, I should be able to get some sort of returns in another 6 months or 12 months. No, think about it as legacy, think about it as long term.
Exactly.
Thank you so
Exactly.
much.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that point. Because that's the key thing. I think, we get caught up in this idea of, the quick returns, the fast money. And when you really pay attention to the largest companies in agriculture globally, these companies
Yeah.
have been around for decades,
Decade.
some near over a century, right? So it is a long play, and when you do it right, the returns are monumental for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for emphasizing that fact. And so my next question to you is like technology transforming the global food system that you have in.
Sorry, I missed the last part.
Okay, so okay, I'll take the entire thing. The last this question is just looking ahead, just saying the next 5 to 10 years. How do you envision AI and biotechnology transforming the global food systems? Right, that's like the first part. The other part is what breakthroughs do you believe will define the next generation of sustainable farming?
That's a really good question. I think, some of the key areas when we look at, obviously my main focus is going to be in the soil microbiology and how we're able to better understand it, because it's so vast.
Mm,
Being able to optimize the understanding of the soil biology and
Mm.
how the different actions that we would take, how that impacts it. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be very, very critical because there are a lot of actions you can see generally in agriculture that a lot of people do and don't think about it because you don't
Yeah.
see the impact. And you're not
Yeah.
sometimes not going to see that impact till 10 years, down the line. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things the AI can help us do is actually visualize that in, almost real time.
Yeah.
Um, I also think, when we're talking about even from soil microbiology to understanding plant genetics a bit better, there's a lot of
Yeah.
interesting work that is happening in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is all tied around how we're able to survive through this climate crisis that we are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the work, especially that is going to be geared towards building climate resilience, um, both from the soil, the inputs, and the crops. I think that that combination is going to play a big role in the future of AI in agriculture. I mean, at this stage, we already have the climate forecasting, weather forecasting, and the predictability around that being probably some of the most advanced. Um, but yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think these other areas are going to be fast on the heels. And then,
Mm. Mm.
um, I would say in terms of us being able to better manage our climate, we're talking about increasing soil carbon, soil organic carbon, increasing soil biodiversity, being able to better manage these areas and uh, continuing to see how we can increase that. I think these are some of the other key areas that are going to make a big impact in this whole, biodiversity and nature economy, the circular economy as a whole. But for us, yeah, I think it's actually tied into the combination of the different points that I would have just mentioned.
Okay.
Ultimately, how are we able to make farms a lot more resilient to deal with the global shocks? And that's whether it's
Yeah.
from the climate or whether it's from the economy. Because
Mm.
as we see right now, that those economic shocks can have some really rippling effects throughout
Mm. Yeah.
each and every one of us, even when we can be so far from where it started. So
Mm.
uh, even on the business side and business modeling, um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is actually something that another aspect of our business where we provide consultation to commercial farms, um, you know, seeing how we can better model, create that economic model for the farm in a way that allows to account for certain types of shocks that can happen, whether it's from the environment or whether it's from the economic activity, and then design solutions around that as best as possible. That's again one of the other key aspects. And I think actually, even on that business side, uh, who knows, we may even be able to pursue that a lot heavier going forward. But being able to package that in a way that is accessible to smallholder farmers, I think
Yeah.
that would be revolutionary for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that, particularly on the business side. And this would then, segue into my final question, because one of the reasons why I do this podcast is because here in Africa, most young persons don't want to be involved in agriculture, not because to them they feel like it's a lot of like drudgery,
Mhm.
the input in terms of like the labor, the expertise put in is not commensurate with the output, like what they get, the value they derive from it, economically. And so most young people don't want to be involved in agriculture. So it's typically easy for someone to even go to university to study agriculture and not wanting to practice, right? Maybe someone
Mhm.
studied, let's say, food technology, and you find them working in the bank as customer service rep,
Yeah.
But, if they had, sort of stick with what they studied, maybe with regards to like the health and, dietetics around food would be better, particularly within the food systems. And so that's like a shortage there. And so the question now is, what would you say to a young person, whether African or not, or a person from your region as well, that is sort of contemplating whether or not to, pursue an opportunity or pursue a career in the food system space? What would be your admonition or advice to that young person?
I mean, I can resonate with the question a lot because I actually had a situation here where I was invited to speak to some young recently graduated students, who studied a few different fields in agriculture, and they were at a point where they did not know what to do, because for them it was like, so I spent all these years studying this, and then I'm not seeing the type of opportunities that I would have liked to see, in
Yeah,
agriculture. So, what do I do? And they literally were asking me, what do I do? Because, our friends are, that did the same thing. They're either going into some other field, or they're just leaving and going overseas, to try to pursue different uh, different opportunities. But I truly think it's important, especially now with the way that the technology is going, the amount of value you can create, and achieve without needing a whole lot. I think now is the time, for more than ever, for young people to really dig in and engage in agriculture. Figure out what specifically you are passionate about, understand why you wanted to pursue this in the first place, and see what gaps exist, either in your country, in your region, where you can add value. I think, like, that's one of the key things, is understanding where the gaps exist and where you can actually add value. Because yes, uh for most of us, it is not the ideal environment, that we're operating in, that has all
yeah,
these opportunities. But what I do see is that we need to be able to create champions in agriculture, and it's only going to work if we have more and more hands working towards it. So, like,
yeah,
collaboration is a big, big, big part of it. You
yeah,
went and you didn't study by yourself, I'm sure, right? You had
yeah,
other peers that were studying with you. See how you guys can come together and collaborate and work together to do something that can be transformational and truly create value. There are a lot of we say there are a lot of problems. That means there are a lot of opportunities for creating
yeah.
value. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to figure out, which is the lowest hanging fruit, or which one is going to give you the most return. But ultimately, I think if your goal is focused on how can I create value for other people, and you're
Mm-hmm.
starting from that foundation, you would be ultimately successful. Because for me, that's where my goal and my starting point was. It was,
Mm,
you know I would say this. I was always, from very, very young age, business minded.
mm-hmm.
The ideas around, wealth and money and all these nice luxury, flashy things that we like. Definitely, I was always here for that. But what's most meaningful to me is being able to add value to someone's life, being able to positively impact
Yeah.
someone's life. And honestly, that's one of the things through our difficult times that really kept me going, because when you hear these stories, sometimes you are just focused on your work and you're in kind of a bubble,
Mm,
but then you get those moments to go out and meet people and speak with them. And when you hear even how your work has impacted them or inspired them, and you're like, wow, really, like,
mm-hmm.
is really amazing. It's amazing feeling and experience. And it's just you just keep doing that, and you just keep doing it, have the consistency with it, and you will start to see the value and the returns come in. But, you know there's so many different opportunities that exist now. Being able to come together as a group, I think brainstorming on ideas, seeing what's the lowest hanging fruit, what can get you started, and then looking for developmental programs,
Yeah.
personal development, entrepreneurship programs, because yes, it's big. There's a lot of different factors and aspects you may not understand, but there are
Yeah.
people provide this knowledge and information. So collaboration, looking for these programs and just seeing how you can add value, is the way I would encourage any young person out there to be. Agriculture, don't buy into these narratives, these very negative narratives. It always amazes me how these negative narratives of agriculture exist so strongly, but yet all of us need to eat, we all need food, and the
Yeah.
largest corporations are multi-billion dollar corporations. I honestly
Yeah.
believe they're able to keep being the same, like 5 or 6 companies for over 100 years, because somehow they've convinced everyone like this. No, this is not the space to get
Yeah.
into. But, if you pay attention to the details, follow the numbers, you will see where the opportunities like. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I like how you talked about the fact that for young person, they need to think about what are their proclivities, what they like to do, and how that they can sort of tap into agriculture with that skill set or expertise that they have. And that's like the same thing I tell a lot of young people back here in Africa. Like, regardless of the skill set or expertise or competencies that you have, there's somewhere for you within the agricultural space. It's just somewhere for you. You just have to be able to be
Mhm.
willing to look for it and then deploy that skill set into it. And just like you rightly mentioned, I think that, the narrative over the years has just been tilted towards the negative more than the
Mhm.
positive, right? And
Yeah.
that's like part of the reason why I do the work that I do with the podcast, because I just know that there's so many young people doing so many tremendous work within the food system sector, but most of them are not. They're so busy doing the work, but they're not capturing their stories, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I believe I know how empowering and inspiring it can be for a young person to definitely see a person that looks like them that is doing great work. It just sort of gives them that confidence and that belief that, oh, okay, I too can
Yeah.
do this great work. If Joshua Forte, all the way in Barbados, is doing this and he has been at it for a long time and is making us thriving within the space, definitely I can do something. And so, yeah, thank you so much for just reiterating that with us today. And it's been quite an amazing interaction with you today. Thank you so much for sharing and spending this time with us today. The session has been insightful, it has been inspiring, and it has been enlightening. And I believe that our audience have learned so much about the work that you do and so much about the value of the work that you do all the way there in Barbados. Thank you so much, Mr. Joshua, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic.